to the early joiners. Hope we're all well this Wednesday at 7. It's dark outside, which makes me kind of sad because I know winter is around the corner. So with us today, we've got Beth. Beth is an endurance rider and has done amazingly well in her sport as well, having some Europeans in both the youth and senior teams. So welcome, Beth, and thank you very much for taking the time out. So break us into it then. What is endurance?
Oh, so I guess it's kind of a test of horsemanship over a long distance. So it's about managing your horse's welfare over a set distance at like an optimum speed, and then at the start, in the middle, and at the end, the vets then.
Sorry, Beth, it's just muted you there for some reason.
There you go.
Sorry.
Am I unmuted? There we go.
Yeah, carry on.
So at the start, the middle, and the end, the vets assess whether you've done a good job of looking after a horse and whether it would be capable of carrying on.
Fantastic. How did you get into the sport then? Because it's something I know exists, but it's not something that I necessarily ever thought of trying to have a go. So kind of how did you get into it?
So it is super random to get into because I guess it's just not as accessible as a pony club now do it. So lots of people are coming up through the ranks, but I lived in the middle of nowhere in Wales, so 60 miles away from an A road, with the Welsh endurance team chef to keep a mile away from me. So I had hundreds of miles of open Cambrian mountain hill to wander around in on my pony, and someone that was really keen about bringing youngsters up into the sport just down the road. So it was kind of quite a natural progression. And for me, getting to like pony club and going eventing, show jumping and dressage was actually a really long drive. So were the endurance events, but training for it was easier at home than anything else.
Fantastic. So what age did you start then?
So I actually started when I was 8. Wow. And my mum took me around a pleasure ride, which is 16 kilometers, 10 miles on the lead rein.
Wow.
So she ran next to me, ran and walked next to me, and I thought it was great. And I did my first kind of proper endurance ride, kind of a competitive endurance ride when I was 10. And that was on my Welsh Section A pony, and my mum was riding her Irish cob, Harvey. So I actually got to ride with my mum and dad for kind of my early endurance years.
Fantastic. And what do you look for in a pony then when you're thinking about endurance? Because I do see there's a lot of Arabs that tend to do endurance. Yeah.
So
there must be a reason.
I started off on a Section A, then I progressed to a Section C, a Welsh cob. The reason Arabs are so good is because of their stamina. Even though they look so fine and flashy and their nose is always in the air and their tail is always up and they look like they might break at any moment, which sometimes they do, but they are really, really sturdy. They're really hardy, and they'll literally go all day. And they actually statistically have a slightly longer pastern than other breeds, which gives them a lot of suspension. So they're quite light on their feet. The recovery times are really good and they're actually quite fast. But saying that, all breeds can try endurance. It's actually really good training for an eventer, fitness training, and it gets you out doing something else. Or a dressage horse. A lot of people, I've kind of convinced a few dressage riders to give it a go, and they've been like, I've found my medium trot, because they kind of get going out on course a little bit more. So it's really good fitness for all disciplines. And as long as you've got a forward-going horse, well-fitting tack, and it's kind of up for it and fit enough, then you can do it.
Fantastic. So what does it take quite a while to get your horses to the stage where you're at now? I mean, what does fitness look like for your horse?
Yeah, so if you want to get up to FEI and you kind of want to be doing 2-3 star races, which are 120 to 160 kilometers, so 75 to 100 miles in a day, then getting up to that level takes about 6 years.
Wow.
So it does take a long time, but as any sport, kind of if you take it slowly, you get the foundations right, then you're looking at hopefully more longevity. But to get into the lower levels, so novice rides are anything between 20 to 50 kilometers, then I would say it probably takes a horse about 6 to 8 weeks to get that base fitness to do a nice, slow, steady, lower level ride. So if you're hacking or like exercising your horse 3 to 5 times a week, then it's probably going to be fit enough to do a lower level endurance ride.
And on the lower level ones then, do you have a set time that you have to do it in between? I mean, how does it become, sorry for my ignorance on the endurance,
No,
how does it become competitive? How do you kind of win?
So at the lower levels, because we don't want people that are on inexperienced horses and inexperienced rider kind of managing over terrain, racing against each other, they're time trials. Right. So you can go out in a small group if you want to, and you can, when you enter, you literally say, I'd like to ride with so-and-so, and they'll let you out in a small group. Or you if you don't have anyone you want to ride with, then you're set out at 5-minute intervals. So you then have time parameters that you need to ride within. So for novice, you're not allowed to go above 14k an hour. So you're looking at, you can do a bit of walk, but mainly trot, a little bit of canter, kind of that speed throughout the ride. And then when you get back, obviously the vets take the heart rate. So the lower the heart rate and the higher your speed up towards the optimum level, the more points you get. And it's called a performance formula system, and you're graded. So you can be graded from grade 1, which is the best, to grade 4, and then you get a completion as well if you're not graded at all. So you get a grade, which gives you the points, and then whoever has the most points wins then that class.
Right, that kind of makes sense. And like you're saying, there's vet checks all the way through that to make sure that
Yeah, so even for our pleasure rides, so even for our kind of like unaffiliated rides, there's a vet check before and after. A lot of people they're kind of put off by that because they're like, oh, it's a little bit scary, will my horse pass? But the vets are just basically looking for the horse is sound and it's in good condition before and after. And also, I think it's really good value for money, because how expensive is it to get a vet out for a check? And you get it twice for like 20 quid.
A bargain. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, vet checks are usually a good in 3 figures, aren't they, to be fair?
Uh-huh.
I think it's a good
for the
thing.
higher rides, for like the slightly longer distances, so you have something called a vet gate. So it's a bit like Formula 1, and there are pit stops. So you go out on your course, you do some loops. They're usually about 30 kilometers the first loop. Then you come into a vet gate. So your time is still running until your heart rate is under 64, or the horse's heart rate is under 64, and you present to the vet, and then they'll check capillary refill, mucous membranes, gut sounds, muscle tone, heart rate, and gait. And that gives you everything you need to know about kind of how metabolically well they are, how hydrated they are, what their blood pressure is doing. So you learn loads about horse welfare, and you literally, if I do a 160, I get, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I get 8 vettings, and usually I'm seen by 3 vets in each vetting. So you really get your horse looked after.
It's a good thing, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely putting the welfare of the horse at the heart of it and making sure that...
And we have some really bad press.
You did, yes.
In kind of mainstream media, because the Middle East, they have a very different ethos. They ride very, very fast, and they have a lot of horses. And in the main, they're treated very well, but there are some that are treated like machines. And that's what gets in the media about these horses going super fast through the desert and breaking legs. When in actual fact, and obviously, Joe, there's some doping going on as well, because all the stables are competing to get the sheikhs to ride their horses to get the money. But for the rest of the world, and definitely in the UK, it's, Joe, these horses are, as everyone in the UK, are babies. We don't have a whole string, we don't treat them like machines, and it's all about their welfare and managing what they can do, because you need to know your horse really well and its fitness really well to be able to come in within the parameters and get the highest grades.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's, eventing has had its bad press, dressage, there's always going to be that element where people will put the money element over the health of the horses. But like you say, in the UK, we just don't tend to do that. We spend, I mean, come on, I bet you're exactly the same. You work literally to pay for your horse.
Yeah, literally, I spend a third of my wages on my horses.
Yeah, well played horses, well played. That's what I said, because we end up looking after them now, don't we? Where, well, come on. So fantastic. So what horses have you got at the moment then? Tell me about the ones that you spend all your money on.
So I actually have 4 Arabs at the moment. One is on loan because I didn't think he was going to make it as an endurance horse, and rather keep trying and push him and potentially break him, I sent him to a lower level endurance home. But the 3 that I've got Tizzy, who is 23 years old, and still doing the lower levels, so she's still competing up to 40 kilometers. She absolutely loves her job, and she has been my horse of an absolute lifetime. So she took me from Young Riders European and World Championships to the World Equestrian Games, the senior team. She's won the biggest rides in the UK and traveled all over Europe. So I've had her since I was 10 and I'm now 30. So she's my like proper heart horse.
Oh,
but
bless.
She's kind of slowing down a bit now. So she's lost a couple of teeth, can't really chew haylage. So I've had to really reduce her training because she can't keep the weight on because she can't eat enough for it. But if it was up to her, she'd still be going strong. Then I've got 2 younger horses. So I've got Rue, who is on long-term loan from who was really exciting for me because he's bred by a young rider that when I was a junior, if she had a signed poster, I would have had it on my wall. Like her and her mare was super cool. Her mare had a foal, it's now 8, and this year I got the opportunity to take him on. So her mare had done loads of 160s and raced out in the desert, and she the stallion she chose was an Australian stallion that you can't even pay for his semen. Your mare has to be selected.
Wow.
So he's really exciting breeding, and he did his first novice ride this year. And then lastly, I've got Qantas, who is my problem child. He keeps getting injured. He's a bit of a psychopath. He really gives chestnuts a bad name. They've
got a bad name anyway. Can I just say chestnuts have got that rep?
I know, but I had hoped that he'd like rep for them, but no, he's having some psychological and physical issues. So he's not even been to a competition yet because it blows his mind. He's very, very sensitive. He's 7. So I'm just taking it super slowly. He's currently injured. He managed to rupture a bicep tendon, which the vets were very excited about because it doesn't happen very often. So they were all like, they're scanning it like, oh, this is cool. So he's on rehab at the moment, but fingers crossed that he comes sound and hopefully we can calm him down as the years go on and see what he can do.
You always have the one. There's always one in the crew.
There's always one. Yeah.
Isn't it? Where you just think...
He's such a goon as well. Like, he's so loving and he's like sniffing you and chewing your zip. And then all of a sudden he just goes, oh my God, a shadow moved.
To be fair, the Arabs are renowned for being a little bit flighty, shall we say.
Yeah, they're very kind of, they're sharp.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get used to that, they are quite sensible. Just everything they do is fast in going.
Yeah. So what do you have to do in regards to foot care then for your horses? Is it, I see you wearing Kevin Bacon there, which we just say that we're repping the brand. Beth is a fellow KB ambassador. And apart from obviously applying that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
What do you do in regards to farriery? Is there anything specific that you need or?
Not really. So at the lower levels, anything up to 80k, there are some horses going barefoot. And fair play to them, because getting the training in and going over competitions on ground you don't know is impressive to get a horse around barefoot. I personally have my horses shod for 10 months of the year. 2 months they will be unshod, turned away on the Welsh Hills, and they have a bit of a holiday. So they're normal shoes, but more importantly, I have side clips on all 4 feet, the side clenches, because it just gives a little bit of a better rollover. And you can just bring the shoe slightly further back to allow for that to kind of take a little bit of the impact out. So for the lower races, like the lower levels and the shorter kind of distances, I just have normal shoes. If I know there's going to be lots of road work, or for the higher distances, I also have 2 tungsten road pins in every shoe. It's more common to have 1, But because we're doing such a long distance, I don't want them to be landing on a pin and it causing even a tiny degree of kind of difference in lateral and medial landing. So they have pins either side, and then they have a pad with silicone underneath. That's to stop any kind of stony bruising happening, and also for a little bit of kind of impact shock absorbing.
Yeah, I've had those on my thoroughbred, to be honest, not for doing any endurance, just for the reason that he's got shocking feet, and it just absorbs a little bit of if they get a bit footsore, doesn't it?
Yeah, it brings the frog a little bit more back into the game. So it kind of disperses the pressure a little bit more. And then obviously, because of the t-shirt, we all know, I use the Kevin Bacon horse dressing, and I use that pre-ride and in the vet gates, because the more moisturized the hoof is, the kind of less shock is also going up through there. So foot health is really, really important, and managing it through a ride. So say we've just been through a river without the dressing on, then the foot actually kind of absorbs a lot of that water, and it kind of changes the structure a little bit. These might be like minute, less than 1% changes, but over a very long distance, that can make a difference.
Yeah. So it's not too intense, and it's just knowing your horses, knowing exactly what and what you're doing as well, isn't it? Like you're saying, as you're going up the levels, you might need to change that need as you go up. So,
and Joe, as we all know, every horse is different, so it's kind of just getting to know them as well as you can.
Yeah, they're all unique, like you're saying, aren't you? So do you have kind of like a season that you run from? So obviously I'm coming from an eventing background, so we have our season's nearly finished in October. What's endurance then, or does it go all year?
Really, really similar. So our competitive season is March to October, and that's mainly due to light, because the longer distances, we do start in the dark, and sometimes finish in the dark, but it's much, much safer if you've got more daylight.
Yeah.
And then throughout the winter, the groups will put on social events and kind of pleasure rides and kind of little rides, kind of training sessions and things. But most endurance horses will have autumn as their downtime. And then come January, December, January, we'll be back in training for the start of the season, March.
Do you think that they lose a lot of fitness over that downtime then, or not at all? Do you find that they pick it up quite easy again?
So I'm super nerdy, like the biggest geek ever. And there's actually loads of research on this. So first of all, it depends on how long that horse has been training for. So Tizzy, for example, who's got over 10 years worth of training under her belt, to get her up to optimum fitness in her prime, it would take 6 weeks, and she would be ready for a 160.
Right.
Whereas Rue, he takes probably 12, 14 weeks to get fit enough. And that's just because he doesn't have that kind of backing. So the fitter their foundation training is, the slower they lose their fitness over time. But from the research, horses don't lose fitness like humans do. So I'm a human physio, and humans start to lose muscle after 48 hours of not using it, which is super quick and really annoying. Whereas
explains a lot about my health, my art.
And one of the things that we find hardest is our brain and our nerves talking to our muscles to get back fit again. Whereas horses, they lose muscle much, much, much slower, 4 to 6 weeks, and their neural pathways, how their nerves switch on the muscles and increase muscle tone, are much, much quicker than ours and don't degrade as much as ours do. So actually, as long as they're not having kind of 3 months off, they come back into fitness really quite quickly.
That's fascinating, because it's one of the areas that just I'm paranoid about as well. I kind of think, I know they need time off, but you've put so much work in to get them fit. Are they going to lose that fitness? And I get a little bit like, oh no, we've got to keep them working. So that's really good to understand that actually they can have a break. Literally,
I can put, so say mid-season, so they all have time off after a race, and it depends on the distance how much time they have off. So 40k, they'll have a week off. 80k, they'll have 2 weeks off. 120, they'll have 3. 160, they'll have 4 weeks off. Right. So if I do a 40k or more, and I've dropped that horse to put it in the field for 2 weeks, it'll come back at exactly the same fitness as I put it down at.
That's
and
amazing.
I have like a heart rate monitor on, respiratory rate, and can do like the recovery, like the sciencey stuff to really see how they are recovering and their fitness levels, and it's literally exactly the same. Sometimes their muscles have evened up and got bigger in the rest period.
So you can actually do that while you're riding. You have the equipment to kind of do the rest and everything while you're riding.
So there's a girth sleeve, and it's actually not as expensive as you think it would be, called Enduro Fitness Tracker.
Right.
And it's a neoprene girth sleeve that you put on, and then it chats to your phone, and it tells you your average pace, how many turns you've done, how much walk, trot and canter, the recovery rate of the heart rate, the maximum heart rate, where it's kind of which training zone your horse has been in most of the time. And they're really good.
I love a bit of technology as well. Things like that really intrigue me. So
Enduro Fitness Tracker, they're good.
It's just, I'm going to write that down. It's just useful, isn't it, to just see how, because like you said, horses are our number one, and you just want to make sure that they're at their best, that they're enjoying what they're doing, and you're not putting too much exertion on them that they're not ready for. So,
and with human athletes, we monitor their heart rates to see if they're going into any overtraining syndrome, which means that kind of their muscles are no longer building, and they're not getting rid of kind of the toxins in the muscles as well as they should, and then they don't perform very well in their races, and everyone's like, but you've trained really hard, what's going on? Whereas you can do exactly the same with a horse. So you can see their normal heart rate patterns, and if they're plateauing and staying up high, then you know they've probably got overtraining syndrome. Give them a couple of weeks off and they come back like really well, even better than they were before. And then performance wise, when you go into a competition, you know that they're like tip top.
They're at the top of the game.
I'm not sponsored by them or anything. They're really good.
No, it's just really good. It's just fascinating. Yeah, it's just one thing that I've just seen it a lot on the eventing field, to be honest, where they just pull, horses get pulled in for a one-day event and they're really unfit, and the horses get pulled to the end, and I'm just like, please don't do that. So I'm very much like keep making sure the horses are fit, and so anything to kind of help with that, like say whether it's endurance.
And I think you can get away with it. You can get away with the odd time of pulling your horse out of the field, going for a hunt, and it'll be fine. But over a long period of time, if you want a performance horse that's going to perform for years, then just every little bit helps, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. So what I'm intrigued as well as what do you feed your horses to maintain this lifestyle that they lead?
So my Arabs are pretty good doers, so I'm quite lucky in that way. So they're on Bailey's Fibre Beat throughout the summer. So I change their Fibre Beat and Speedy Beat amounts depending on the forage quality and amount. So depending how the grass is growing, I'm really, like I said, I'm really geeky. You'll now think I'm really geeky. I look at like the farmers, the website that farmers go on to see grass rate growth rates and things like that, and how much sun there's been and how much sugar's in the grass, and I change my Fibre Beat and Speedy Beat depending on that. And then I add in the Bailey's Horse Feeds Performance Balancer, and that stays pretty static the whole time. And then I have the Ease and Excel, Bailey's Ease and Excel mix, and the cubes, because the cubes for Tizzy, because she can't have the bits because they get in between her teeth. And that will fluctuate depending on how much training they're doing. The biggest thing, I guess, that endurance riders do that a lot of more old school equestrian thought processes would be like, what are you doing? Is we feed our horses always half an hour before they're ridden. So kind of get that stomach acid to neutralize it so it's not slopping around. We'll feed them during competition, so as much hard feed as they want in competition. And we feed them straight away after they've finished in competition and in training. If you think about humans, you'd be like, you go and do a training session, you'd be like, right, get your protein shake down, you get your food down, you for muscle repair. It's the same in horses. But I guess from kind of the old school thinking of like, oh no, don't do that, they'll colic, and it's just kind of carried on. The same with water. So we give them electrolyte water before they train, electrolyte sugar beet and plain is on offer during competition. And then we give them electrolyte water straight away once we've jumped off. And that's just to keep all of the chemical balances in the cells and everything functioning as well as possible.
That's interesting, because I am from that old school where you just got told, do not feed, do not
and everyone at my yard is like, Beth, what are you doing?
Yeah, don't feed and then ride. No. But obviously it's fine.
If you want to look into stuff like that, probably heard of him, but there's a guy called Dr. David Marlin. And there's a group on Facebook, and he has a website and things. You have to sign up to it. I think it's £8 a month, but it's well worth it to go on for like 1 month and read everything. And he just myth busts and goes through all the papers in a really like easy way to understand, so it's not all jargony and sciencey. And I love it, because he's literally like, this is kind of what rugs do and when you should rug, and this is the kind of bedding that's better for respiratory conditions, and literally things like that. So we pour water. Eventers now do it as well, where you kind of slosh the horses off after eventing. Eventers learnt that from the World Equestrian Games in Kentucky in the 90s from the endurance riders that were out there.
Right.
And also racing now do it. And we literally pour from their head all the way over their bum. And a lot of people will be like, oh my God, don't put cold water over their bum, their muscles will get super tight. But if you think of putting a human in an ice bath, and yes, you're like, oh my gosh, when you go in, but afterwards that muscle soreness is much lower. Yeah, it's well worth a look, because there's lots of super sciencey but made really understandable stuff on there.
Fascinating. Yeah, I've seen the eventers do it now. It's all to get the temperature down, isn't it, when they come off the running,
and to keep their muscles like nice and supple and reduce the muscle soreness for the jumping the next day, which makes total sense.
It does, yeah. When you think about it, it does absolutely make sense. But you do get these old school things in your head that's been like, oh no, but when I was at riding school,
yeah, definitely. And if that's
you
what
can't
you
do
were
that.
taught, yeah, if that's what you're taught, that's what you're taught in pony club, that's what you've always done, and you're actually told, oh, if you do that, your horse is going to colic, you're not going to do it.
Exactly, yeah. So what does next year look like for you then? What is your main goal that you're working towards at the moment?
My main goal is to get my 2 youngsters through their novice qualifications. So they've got another 2 years, maybe a year and a half if I'm lucky, before they get up to FEI. So I'm going to get through all their novice qualifications, and then hopefully the year after might be FEI again.
So is it, again, I'm relating to eventing, so we have minimum entry requirements that we can move up the levels. Is it very similar? They have to pass so many?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So we have novice, where you have to pass 3 40k rides. We have intermediate, where you have to pass 2 80-kilometer time trials. Then we have advanced, when you need to pass 2 80-kilometer races. Then we have 1 star, which is 100-kilometer, and you have to get 2 out of 3 in a row to go up the next one. And then you have 2 star, which is 120-kilometer plus, and you have to get 2 out of 3 to upgrade. Then 3 star is a 160. You need to get 2 out of 3 again to upgrade, and then 4 stars championships.
Makes sense. It makes sense that they're making sure that you're achieving the levels before you
and that the horses are consistent, because our old system used to be you just had to be complete 1 at each level to move up.
Right.
But a lot of horses were being rushed through the system to get them up to championship level, and they just weren't, their conditioning wasn't good enough, they weren't experienced enough. So now they're doing it so that your horse has to be consistent and conditioned to make it way up. So it's probably put about 2 years onto the process, but I think it's probably best.
Again, for the horse welfare, isn't it, as well, which is, it seems to be at the forefront of the sport, which is fantastic to see. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Does anybody got any questions? Sorry, go on, Beth.
I was going to say the other thing that's really cool is for championships, and I don't know about other disciplines what the rules are for this, but you have to have done your 2 and 3 star qualifications on that horse to be able to go to a championship. Whereas before we had a rule where you would only have to do 1 ride on that horse before riding at a championship. So we had loads of professional jockeys on professional stabled horses that had barely ever met doing championships.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not actually sure. Do you know what? I'm never going to get to 4 or 5 star level in eventing, so I'm not actually sure whether you can. Oh, I do. But yeah, obviously we have to make sure that we've got certain minimum entry requirements for the horses. And again, it's just to sorry guys, I'm just going to mute. again, it's just to make sure that we're not just getting the people that are just chucking horses into novice level and everything else, because horse welfare and everything else, you don't want to be throwing yourself at solid fences when you're not ready for it. No, really not. Oh, that's fantastic. So I'm just going to open the floor for questions. Has anybody got any questions for Beth? There's a chat box that you can pop it into. I can see somebody with, I've been muting people, sorry peeps, I'll unmute. Tanya, what would you like to ask the lovely Beth?
Hi, how are you?
Hello, good, thank you.
So we've talked a bit about horse fitness, but how important is rider fitness? I mean, not just for endurance, but for any sport, really.
That excellent question. As a physio, bloody love it.
Yeah.
I actually have a YouTube channel, and I have a whole video about what I do as a rider for fitness, and that probably explains it better than I can. But basically, and this is like my pet peeve of equestrians, when have you ever seen an equestrian in any sport finishing a round and their main problem is being out of breath? Very rarely. When have you seen that they can't hold their position, they're flopping all over the place, and their core is poor, and that's what's letting them down? All the time. Yet most equestrians think going for a run is going to help them. So I do a mix of things. So I do 2 Pilates sessions a week, and then I do 3 strength training. So either body weight or weights in the gym, depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to go to the gym, so I do a YouTube channel body weight workout at home. And then I do 1 cardio session on my mountain bike a week. So I'm quite lucky that my job is super active anyway, so I'll end up deep water jogging in a pool a few times with my patients a week and constantly demoing exercises and doing stuff. But training wise, what I really want is a really good posture and my strength endurance to be up, because I'm literally stood in my stirrups for hours and hours and hours. So my quads and my glutes and my core need to be really good. The only thing I'd probably add if you were a jumper is to do more power lifting, because of that explosive movement in the saddle, and as you come down on the landing, for all your joints and muscles to absorb that impact, more power work in the gym would really benefit that. If you were a dressage rider, I would go for kind of much more core and really slow Pilates, yoga, control-based stuff. So your proprioception, like where all your body parts are and how you're using them, is really good. But yeah, being fit is handy.
So what would be like, what would be your most sore point after a really long ride? I mean, would it be your legs from standing all day, or would it be your hands from holding the reins all day? Or
so if you've got a horse that's pulling, like triceps, my gosh. But I'm quite lucky that most of the time my horses are fairly well behaved, apart from Qantas out on course. So that's not normally an issue. The bit for me that hurts the most is my calves, because endurance riders ride quite long, because we don't want to be in that kind of tucked up position. We want to be kind of quite upright and able to move around and balance quite well in terms of kind of over a longer period. So being tucked up doesn't really help us. Our stirrups are quite long, not dressage long, but still long. When we're stood up in the saddle, we're quite upright, so we're not as forward as like a hunting position, what you'd normally see, which means that quite a lot of the impact is literally just my ankle doing this for hours on end as I canter around. So my calves, they hurt the next day.
oh,
My butt is fine though, because it doesn't touch the saddle. If I ever go out for a hack with some of the other riders from the yard and we do mainly walk, my butt really hurts. How do you guys do this?
That's interesting in regards to what we need to look at for jumping, because I tell you where I hurt after was thighs. My thighs kill. And that's
so if you did more weighted squat jumps, so more explosive stuff, I guarantee you 6 to 8 weeks time you'd be better.
It's on the menu. Did you say you got some YouTube fitness?
Yes, if you search Beth Endurance, go through the videos. I think it was probably about a month ago, and I only do one a week, so you won't have to scroll very far. It's like my endurance fitness as a rider. Yeah, you'll find it.
Go on there, that's it. That's the next. That's winter training. So, Tanya, winter training is squatting at the gym.
Yeah, lots of
very much.
deadlifts, lots of squatting, explosive power. You'll be there.
Oh, I'll try. Has anybody else got any questions? Anything else that anybody? I can see Claire.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I just wanted to speak about obviously the Vibe in question because I've just joined you guys as a team member.
Okay.
I've just joined. When is it you receive your like gifts from Vibe?
I'm not sure at the moment, so I'll explain a little bit about kind of who I am in the Vibe setup. So I am just a supported, sponsored rider. So I am an eventer. I've got two, well, can we say 210 really, 1.5 horses that we're looking. I've got one definite eventing, half at the minute. He's just trying. And I assist them with just a bit of social media and doing the Vibe talks, and we do meetups and things like that for all the ambassadors. So the other side of that, I don't actually know. But if you will send me a message on Insta, so I'm at Everyday Eventers, I will certainly find out for you, Claire.
That'd be great. It's only because I joined with yous because I like some of your stuff, and my sister actually is joined with yous, and she got all her free jumper and stuff from yous. And we actually went to Hicksted, the Sunshine Tour, the couple of weeks ago, and my sister was looking for Vibe over there, and she couldn't find you guys. And then that's when I got that, because she reserved me and said I'll come along to Vibe. That's why I got a team member with you guys, so I was really excited when I got on the team.
Oh, well, it's a great team. I have to say, I've really enjoyed working with Vibe. They're an absolute fantastic company to work for. I love the fact that we get the talks like this, so we get to speak. For me, it's a bit of a dream because I get to speak to Beth. I saw her, on YouTube, and now I'm speaking to her in person. So it's kind of my dreams come true. I get to speak to all these fantastic people. But yes, absolutely, I will find out as much information and send it through to you. But it is a great it's a great friendly atmosphere, and on these talks we get different people on.
I'm just so excited to, when I do get the t-shirt and everything, I'm so excited to wear it and sponsor you guys a lot. And obviously I'm willing to get more stuff off you guys as well, because obviously I don't own my own one, but I'm going to look at one on Saturday. I've been doing my sister's horses. She's got one. Fingers crossed.
Oh my goodness, this is where it's, just dig the hole.
See, I've been riding since I was 13, so I'm now 29. So I've got 3 children as well, and they're boys, and they like to have a sit on and go around. But
get them mucking out.
Yeah.
Poo picking. Get them poo picking and mucking out. That's what they need to learn.
But I've just done my 2. I went and tried dressage for the first time, and I went in Brook Farm the other day, and I actually come 4th and qualified for Trailblazers. So I was really chuffed with myself. Well I've done another dressage course with E-Riders, and I got 10th. So
well done. E-Riders is hard as well. They
But the only thing I keep messing up in my dressage is my 20-meter circles. I keep getting confused with all my circles, and I'm finding it hard, so I keep practicing at home.
That's kind of all the joke with dressage, isn't it? It's just going around in circles. I'm still trying to learn 20 meters.
I enjoy my show jumping more. I don't jump that big. I just go out to enjoy. I'm not like, I really enjoy it. See, my sister's got an ex-race horse, and all he's learned to do is just go and gallop all the time. And obviously I've been riding him, and I've been training him a lot, and he's been coming on so well. But because of the loaning thing, I thought, oh no, I want my own one now. It's not the same.
It's not, is it? I'm sure Beth, you can agree. It's not, having your own is just something. So I gave up. I've had 30-year gap, so I my younger days, and then had my family and everything else, and got divorced, and then thought, you know what, let's have another go. Let's chase those dreams I had when I was 13. It's a lot harder than 43. But yeah, good luck to you anyway. Yeah, I hope everything goes well, and go for dressage.
I'm doing it, and the more that I've done it 2 times now, and the more I'm enjoying it, but I do get angry with myself because I can do everything else, but then it's just when it comes to circles, I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, I'm a typical eventer, so I only do dressage because I have to. I have to say, and that's only because I would say I don't want to just any dressage riders. The dressage I would think is one of the hardest disciplines.
It's not easy dressage, I must admit. Like when I see people do it, I'm like, oh my God, how do you do that?
Yeah,
I'm so fascinated by it. I'm like,
you can't get away with as much in dressage as you can with other things.
No, we can hide it, can't we? In our sports, we can hide a little bit of the
get a short stride in the show jumping, pick up a bit of time in the cross country. It's fine, you can sneak it in, but dressage there's nowhere to hide.
Exactly, yeah, it's fine.
I enjoy a bit of everything, so I do look forward to everything I do. Like I like my hacking, and then now my dressage, and then my show jumping, and I really love my schooling as well because it makes me work and it makes the horse work as well. So I do love that as well.
Definitely, I'm gonna thinking of having a look at endurance. I think it'd be great fitness.
Good fitness for eventers. I'll take you around one.
Deal, right?
Deal,
That's a deal. I've got a pretty fit event. Reg would do an endurance. I honestly
next year we'll do a 16k. Your horse will never use that fit again.
You've all heard that here. Beth says she's gonna allow me to run a 16k, so we'll definitely do that. Absolutely. Has anybody else got any other questions that we'd like to ask Ellie? How you doing, Ellie? I'll just ask. I think you can unmute yourself, but I'll ask you to unmute.
There we go. I think
there we go, Ellie.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Sorry, I'm really new to this, so it's very exciting.
Right.
So I wanted to ask how. I'm sorry if you've already covered this as well because I was a little bit late because I was late back from work. But how would you go about getting into doing sort of like the lower level rides? Because I've got a 4-year-old that I do want to event eventually, but I don't really want to start with jumping for another probably year. Just because she's a bit weak behind, but for like she lives on a hill, so I feel like endurance might be something she might be okay at. But yeah, how would you get started? I
think it's a really nice way of getting youngsters used to events as well, because the lower levels of endurance are very low key, but gets them used to being around other horses and things. So in terms of getting into it, there are local groups. So if you go onto the Endurance GB website, have a look at which group you're in, and then all of the local groups have Facebook groups, but they also have emails on the website. Everyone is weirdly super friendly in endurance. I think it's a little bit, and noticing to any endurance riders or any other discipline, it's a little bit where all the weirdos go because they've kind of been a bit rejected.
I like it, and absolutely. I'm sorry, you show jumpers out there, but your warm up is horrendous. So I'm all for the weird.
Everyone is super, super friendly. I've tried other disciplines before, and I think it's probably the nicest one. I think because we're out and about, so you don't feel judged because people aren't really watching you, and it's less competitive against each other because you're not doing the same thing in a ring and you're watching other people do it. So I think it's naturally a less competitive environment, even though it's still a competition. But so yeah, contact your local group, see what you've got around you. They'll have a list of rides that they've got in the area. Then all of the rides also have a Facebook like event. And if you want someone to accompany you, you can literally put on, is there anyone that's doing this distance? I've got a youngster, I'm doing this speed. Normally someone will be like, yeah, tag along and do it. And I would start off with like the 16-kilometer rides and just work your way up and see if you enjoy it and how you do. And it'd be really good training for a young horse and to like keep an eventer fit as well through the years.
Oh, thank you. Actually, that because I would never have thought to just put on, be like, can someone please come with me? But that would be so useful because
it's super normal. So I will literally go on, if I'm taking my youngster, I'll go on the ride. Normally I know who's going anyway, but I'll go on the ride thing and I'll be like, anyone want to come with my psychopath chestnut to try and nanny him around this ride? And I'll be like, Beth, really again? But yeah, everyone's super friendly, so you can pal up with people, and I would really recommend going to help at an endurance ride. And if you can, it's a coveted position, but if you can, get the vet writer position. So all the vets have someone that literally write on paper for them, because they're too important for that kind of thing. And it's really cool to watch that many horses trot up and see that many vettings, and you learn loads from it.
Cool, thank you.
Okay.
Fascinating. Absolutely. I want to go now. It gets me really excited. Like, I want to have a go. I want to take my youngster. He's rubbish. He's a psychopath. Let's take him around some endurance. Oh, excellent. Right, Kate, we are actually getting near time now. So I know we've talked so much. It's been so fascinating. The one thing I always ask everybody, Beth, so I'm going to ask you the same, is that you have to give me your best piece of advice. It can be anything that somebody's ever or whatever. What is your best piece of advice for us today?
So my best piece of advice that anyone ever gave me, and it took a while for this to sink in, is that you only need to win when it matters to you. The rest of the time is training. And that really sunk into me, of like getting my horse up to the FEI levels. I was like, well, I have to prove myself on the way. But actually, no, I could take it slowly. I could kind of pull myself away from kind of the lead groups. And then when it mattered, when I went to a championship, that's when I'd pull out all the stops. And that just meant to me that I was looking after my horse really, really well through the season, and then getting to a championship. And on that final loop, I had the confidence to go, right, Tizzy, give me all you've got, because I'd kind of saved it up until that time. So I had nothing to prove until I was ready to say, right, this is all I've got. I'm giving it everything. And I think that for any discipline is a great sport. So now I've learned a lot as I've gone up through the levels and got older, but now I look at competitions and set my individual goal, and my individual goal is my competition, and it doesn't matter what anyone else does. But when I want to prove myself against everyone else, and that's my goal, that's when I go to win.
Oh, that means, do you know what's resonated with me, to be honest? I've had an absolute shocking year competing this year. And I've got my penultimate, shall we say, event on Saturday, and I'm thinking, I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to think, oh, I've got to be competitive. And actually, no, I don't really have to, do I? I can just set my own little goal, whatever that may be, and enjoy it being the main thing. So
I'd highly recommend anyone to go to talks by Charlie Unwin. They are like the equestrian's dream psychology chats. And I think he's got 3 talks on David Marlin. So if you pay out £8, you can watch all 3 of them. And it's all about that. It's all about setting goals. It's all about controlling what you can control and not worrying about what you can't, and all the psychology of being an equestrian, because we've got that added element of a horse that other athletes don't have. So it's really good.
That unknown element, that whatever the best laid plans that you can have, and you get to a competition and it just might not be your day for whatever reason. So it's I was said like to 10, I was like, it's a bit soul destroying at times.
It really is. Yes, it is.
It is.
It's tough, and we spend a lot of time by ourselves with a horse, slogging it for that one weekend of competition that may or may not go your way. So just having those small little goals makes such a big difference to me.
I'm going to take that on board. As I go into the weekend, I shall be thinking about that. And thinking it doesn't matter. Just need the small goals that I will set for myself. Like, and that affect that we come back safe and the horse comes back safe, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and they have fun. Fun should be had.
Really? Should we? Do we have to have? Is fun? Yes, absolutely.
Compulsory actually.
Yeah, I've been trying to make. Do you know what? I've had my worst year competing, but I've had the most fun doing it, and that sounds really strange, doesn't it? But no, I think it is what you make it, and I've had the best people around me this year that I've just kind of they've made the competition season, even though it's been shocking on paper, shall we say. The season has been great. So no, thank you so much, Beth. I feel like we could talk to you forever, but I will take you up on that opportunity to go endurance riding next year.
Next year, we'll do it.
I know your details now, you can't get away. And thank you everybody for joining us. And the next talk, we're doing it every 2 weeks now. And I think in 2 weeks' time, we have a lady, I think it's a lady called Hannah, and she's a vet physio. So that should be quite an interesting chat.
Oh, lucky guys.
Thank you so much, Beth, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
No worries, and you.